Have you ever had that specific sinking feeling where you look around at your life, the job, the house, the relationship, and on paper, it all just looks like a winning hand?
Like you've got the royal flush.
Exactly. You've got the royal flush, but inside, you feel like you're actually losing the game.
It's the classic wrong lane syndrome.
Yeah.
You're running a marathon, you're making great time, your form is perfect, but then you look up and realize you're on the wrong track entirely.
Right. And we usually call that a midlife crisis. We joke about it, buying a sports car, getting a bad haircut. But today we're looking at something that argues this isn't just an emotional crisis. It's a crisis of logic, a math error in how we calculate happiness.
And to explore this, we're doing a deep dive into a really fascinating source. It's a book called Love, Life, and Logic by Uday Mukherjee. And what's interesting is that this is a novel. It's fiction.
Right.
But we're not going to treat it like a book club read today. We're going to treat it as a philosophical case study.
Because the main character, a guy named Rohan Fernandez, he's basically a lab rat for these concepts. He dismantles a perfect life in Singapore to find actual meaning. And the author uses his journey to lay out some very specific, very practical frameworks.
Frameworks for dealing with heartbreak, transition, and that search for purpose. We're going to break this down into 3 parts to keep it all straight.
Okay.
So first, the collapse. Why the perfect life falls apart. We'll look at something called the parallel lines problem. Then second, the retreat, what happens when you strip everything away. And finally, the reconstruction. The actual tools, like the sailboat analogy and the sand grain theory.
So let's start with the catalyst. Let's look at this guy, Rohan Fernandez. I mean, if you saw his life on paper, you'd probably hate him, or at least be incredibly jealous.
Oh, absolutely. He's a portfolio manager in Singapore. High pressure, high reward. He's pulling in massive bonuses, drives a Mercedes CLK convertible.
Of course he does.
And he's married to Mimi, who's, arguably just as successful. She's a high-powered executive, beautiful, intelligent. They are the definition of a power couple.
But the source material points out something really specific about them. They didn't just stumble into this life. They, engineered it based on a philosophy. They were obsessed with the movie Without Limits.
Right, the Steve Prefontaine story. For anyone who doesn't know, Prefontaine was this legendary American runner. His strategy was just brutal. He didn't pace himself. He didn't save energy for a final kick.
No.
He believed in being a front runner. You go out hard, you lead, and you make everyone else suffer to keep up.
Which is a great strategy for, a 5,000-meter race.
Sure.
But for a marriage, that feels intense. Maybe a little too intense.
It is. Rohan and Mimi took this to mean we never hold back. They wanted to win at everything, career, money, social status. But the source points out a fatal flaw in this logic.
And this is the parallel lines problem, right? I found this concept so visual.
Exactly. Think back to geometry. Parallel lines can run incredibly fast. They can go in the exact same direction forever. But by definition, they never touch.
They never intersect.
Never. And that was Rohan and Mimi. They were running next to each other, sprinting towards success, but they weren't actually running with each other.
That distinction is so heavy. Coexisting versus connecting. I think a lot of people fall into that trap without even realizing it. You're both busy, you're both achieving, so you assume the relationship is working because the stats look good.
Until you stop running. And that's what happened. The breakdown, it didn't start with some huge betrayal. It wasn't an affair or anything like that. It started with the silence. The source describes these agonizing dinners where the sound of Mimi's cutlery scraping the plate would just drive Rohan insane.
The cutlery test. If the sound of your partner eating makes you want to scream, you might be in trouble.
It's a symptom of a much deeper resentment. When you lose that connection, the little things you used to ignore become unbearable. Rohan realized his carefree attitude, which she used to love, she now saw as irresponsibility.
And her style, which he loved, he now saw as a superficial obsession. The whole image just cracked.
It did, so they separate. And this is where his life's logic just fails him. He did everything right, the job, the car, and he ends up alone. So he runs, he leaves Singapore, leaves his kids, which just destroys him, and he lands in Vienna.
And Vienna is phase 2. This is his first attempt to fill that void. He meets a girl, Adeline. She's 23, a medical student, just vibrant and messy and spontaneous.
She is the chaotic opposite of his structured Singapore life.
She's the rebound. But she's a rebound with a philosophy. She dropped this metaphor on him about the jigsaw puzzle.
It's a great visual. She tells him life is a jigsaw puzzle, but the cruel joke is that you don't have the box cover. You have no idea what the final picture is supposed to look like. You're just picking up pieces blindly. A job here, a relationship there, and trying to jam them together.
And we've all done that. You force a piece because you want it to fit. You want that person to be the one, so you jam it in there, even when the edges don't quite match up.
And you just ruin the cardboard edges.
Yeah.
Eventually you have to admit it doesn't fit, and you have to do the painful work of ripping it out. That's what he was doing with his marriage. He was ripping out a huge chunk of his puzzle.
But he tries to jam Adeline in there as a replacement piece, and it doesn't fit either. And this leads to what I think is one of the most profound ideas in the book, the difference between candles and candle holders.
Oh, this is a moment of just brutal self-awareness for Rohan. He realizes he can't fully commit to Adeline, and he classifies people in relationships into two types. First, you have the candles.
Okay.
These are the people who truly love. They're willing to burn themselves down, to melt away, just to provide light and warmth for someone else. Adeline was a candle.
And the candle holder.
The candle holders are the people who want the light. They need the warmth. But they're terrified of the fire. They hold the candle, but they stay rigid and cold and safe. They don't melt. And Rohan realizes he's become a candle holder.
He wants to be loved, but he's too guarded to let himself burn again.
That's a really tough thing to admit to yourself. I'm using this person for warmth because I'm too scared to be vulnerable. It's basically admitting to emotional cowardice.
So he knows he has to leave Vienna. He can't be a vampire on her energy. He runs again, this time to the Swiss Alps. Lauterbrunnen.
And the setting here shifts dramatically. We go from the high-speed traffic light life of Singapore through romantic Vienna to just absolute stillness, mountains, waterfalls.
The silence of nature. And it's here that he meets two characters who basically act as his therapists, but in very, very different ways.
Yeah.
Kevin, the paraglider, and Mr. Barco, the philosopher.
Let's start with Kevin, because this isn't just about an adrenaline junkie taking a sad guy for a ride.
Yeah.
No. Though the paragliding is the mechanism. Kevin's a guy who lost his parents in an avalanche, so he knows death. But his response isn't fear, it's engagement. He takes Rohan up in a tandem paraglider and introduces this idea of the 3D view.
Explain that. What does he mean? Is it just looking at things from a distance?
It's a bit more visceral than that. Kevin points out that on the ground, obstacles look huge. A rock blocks your path, a building blocks your view, a divorce blocks your future. You're stuck in the maze.
I see.
But when you're 1,000 feet up, the whole valley is just a pattern. The obstacles are just tiny details in this beautiful whole.
It's about escaping the ego trip. On the ground, you're the center of your own universe. In the air, you're just a speck.
Precisely. Kevin has this great line, "No bookie will dare take a bet on your life," meaning nothing is guaranteed. We play it so safe, thinking we have all this time, but we don't. He tells Rowan to put life back into living.
So Kevin handles the physical shift. But then we meet Mr. Barco. And this guy, this is where the source material gets heavy. Mr. Barco is Rohan's old chemistry teacher who just happens to be retired there.
It's a bit of a convenient literary coincidence, yeah. But Mr. Barco is the sage archetype in this journey. He challenges Rohan's deepest insecurity, which is that he feels like a failure. He feels ordinary. And Mr. Barco hits back with the superpower argument.
I loved this part because it takes biology and turns it into something almost spiritual. It's such a complete reframing of what it means to be human.
It's a beautiful argument.
Yeah.
Mr. Barco just asks Rohan to look at his own body. Humans effortlessly convert a sandwich into thought, into muscle, into memory. No scientist in a lab can replicate the efficiency of the human biological machine.
So his point is basically, you are a walking miracle. Stop feeling sorry for yourself.
His point is we are all walking AA batteries. We're little gods.
Mm-hmm.
We have this inherent superpower to create and sustain life, but we forget we have it because we're so busy worrying about our job title.
Yeah.
We let our social failures blind us to the biological success of just existing.
That's a powerful perspective. But knowing you're a little god doesn't just erase the pain of a divorce. The emotions are still there. So Mr. Barco gives him a specific tool for that too. Role-playing.
Yes. This is pure stoicism, just wrapped in a theater metaphor. Mr. Barco tells Rohan to treat life like a stage play. You're an actor. And sometimes the director fate, the universe, whatever, casts you as a successful banker. You play it well, but you don't let it go to your head. It's just a role.
And sometimes you get cast as the divorced dad or the guy who lost everything.
Exactly. And you have to play that role with dignity too. But, and this is the key, you don't become the role. You watch yourself from the audience. You say, here is Rohan going through grief. He's playing this part well.
That detachment is crucial.
It is. It creates a safety buffer.
Yeah.
It stops the emotion from drowning you because you're observing the pain rather than just being the pain.
And so, armed with these two new perspectives, the 3D view and the role-playing Rohan is finally strong enough to go back to Singapore. He has to face the music.
He has to see Mimi, see his kids. And honestly, I was expecting a big dramatic fight scene here.
Yeah.
Tears, screaming, the whole thing.
Me too.
But the source gives us something much quieter and I think much more helpful. The birdcage ritual.
It's at Changi Beach, their old spot. And instead of a bitter handoff of the kids, they decide to do something symbolic. They bring a cage of birds, and for every year they were a family, they write down their best memory.
Not the fights.
Mm-hmm.
Not the failure.
Yeah.
Not the cutlery scraping the plate.
Just the best moments, the wedding, the births of their kids, the funny little things. They tie these notes to the birds, and then they release them.
I think that's just so powerful because it reframes the whole narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Usually divorce is framed as we fail. This frames it as we had a successful season and now that season is over.
It honors the past without being chained to it. It shows the kids that the love was real, even if the family structure changes. It's just a masterclass in closure.
And it lets them move forward as co-parents without all that baggage of failure.
But Rohan isn't done. He meets a colleague, Tina, who's on the brink of her own divorce. And he hits her with the sailboat analogy. Is this different from the race analogy we started with?
Very different. The race is about exertion, beating other people. The sailboat is all about alignment. Rohan tells Tina that a marriage is like a sailboat. From the shore, it looks romantic and effortless. But on the water, you're at the mercy of the wind.
And the wind is your partner, or just life.
The wind is the external forces, but crucially, it's also your partner's nature, their aspirations. You can't control the wind. If you try to sail against it, if you fight your partner's growth or impose your ego, it's physically exhausting. The boat just creates drag.
And eventually you capsize.
Exactly. The advice isn't to be passive. It's to be adaptive. You adjust your sails. You tack. You find a way to move with the energy, not against it.
Yeah.
If you align with the wind, the boat sails itself.
He also has this idea of a renewable marriage license, which I thought was hilarious, but actually kind of genius.
That's a radical thought experiment. He argues that if marriage licenses expired every single year, like a driver's license, you'd never take your partner for granted. You'd have to earn the renewal every 12 months.
It changes the dynamic completely, doesn't it?
It does. It forces you to be present today, rather than coasting on a promise you made 10 years ago. It asks, does this still work right now?
I can see that causing some anxiety, but I get the point. It kills complacency. So, Rohan has closure, he has wisdom, but he's still back at the bank, making money.
And he hates it. He realizes he was being rewarded for lies and deception, selling financial products to people who didn't need them. And that superpower talk from Mr. Barco is just ringing in his ears. He can't waste his little god energy on something so hollow.
So he pulls the ripcord, he quits. He moves to Phuket, Thailand, buys a penthouse, and decides, I am going to be a writer.
Which is the classic fantasy, right? But reality hits him hard. He sits down to write, and nothing. Blank page, writer's block. He feels average again, like a fraud.
And this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the sand grain theory. This is how he finally finds peace.
Yes. He's walking on the beach, looking at the ocean. He picks up a handful of sand, and he starts thinking about how insignificant a single grain is. It's microscopic, one of billions.
Which is exactly how he feels. Small, replaceable, pointless.
But then the logic flips. He realizes that without those billions of grains, there is no beach. Without sand, there's no concrete to build cities. The sand protects the land. Each grain has a structural function.
And he connects this back to biology.
He remembers thumbprints. Nature is efficient. It doesn't waste energy. If nature went to the trouble of giving every single human being a unique thumbprint, a unique identifier, then it must intend for every human to have a unique purpose.
Even if that purpose isn't to be a Steve Prefontaine frontrunner.
Exactly. Your purpose might just be to be one specific grain of sand in the concrete that holds a family together, or a community. It's the death of the ego. He stops trying to be a bestseller and just decides to be Rohan. To fulfill his function thinking, writing, existing to the best of his ability.
I don't have to be the whole beach. I just have to be my grain. That is a massive weight off the shoulders.
It is. It shifts the focus from success, which is external, to purpose, which is internal.
So if we boil this all down, what are the actionable takeaways from love, life, and logic?
I think there are 4 key tools to take from this. Number 1, check your relationships. Are you running parallel races? You need to intersect. You need to stop coexisting and start collaborating.
Number 2, the role-playing technique. When life gets overwhelming, step back. Watch yourself from the audience. Play the role, but don't become the tragedy.
Number 3, the sailboat. Stop fighting the wind. Look at your partner. Look at your reality and adjust your sails to work with it, not against it.
And finally, the sand grain. You don't need to be the hero. You just need to fulfill your function. Your biology proves you have a purpose. You just have to find where you fit.
Perfectly summarized.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one final thought from the source. It says, looking happy and being happy are two different things. Rohan spent 20 years perfecting the look, the car, the house, while starving the reality.
It's the trap we all face. Curating the exhibit of our life rather than actually living it.
So here's the question for you today. If you had to renew your life license right now, not just your marriage, but your career, your friendships, your entire path based solely on how you feel inside, would you sign the paper? Or would you, like Rohan, walk away to find a new beach?
That's the scary question. But it's really the only one that matters.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next one.